2 years. That was how long I had been with him. 2 years of believing I was building towards something real, something adult, something lasting. Looking back, the worst part was not what Ethan said that Friday night. It was how casually he said it, like telling me something ordinary, like my place in his life was just another small detail to manage. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and at the time, I was working a steady office job that paid enough to keep things afloat. Nothing glamorous. Long hours, fluorescent lights, too many emails, too much coffee gone cold before noon. But it was solid, predictable. I liked predictable. Maybe that was part of my problem. I mistook stability for safety. I mistook consistency for love. Ethan Walker and I had been living together for a little over a year. The apartment wasn't technically ours. It was in his older sister Hillary's name, an arrangement they had worked out before I came along. I never pushed too hard on the details because, at first, I didn't think I needed to. I was paying most of the rent anyway. Ethan worked part-time at a men's boutique downtown and covered groceries, small expenses, and some of his own bills. I carried the heavier part of the load because that was what people did when they were building a life together. Or at least that was what I told myself. Friday evening, I got home a little after 6. I still remember the stale chill of the apartment, the faint scent of Ethan's cologne mixed with a sweet candle, the television running on mute, and Ethan stretched out on the couch, scrolling on his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. I dropped my bag by the counter, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and sat beside him. "So," I said, twisting the cap off, "your sister's birthday party is tomorrow, right? What time are we heading out?" He didn't answer immediately. At first I thought he hadn't heard me. Then I noticed the tiny pause in his hand, the way his eyes stayed on his phone a second too long. "Oh," he said finally, "actually, you're not invited." I turned to him, waiting for the joke. It didn't come. "What do you mean I'm not invited?" He shrugged. "It's just family. You know how it is." No, I thought. I didn't know how it was. Because after 2 years, after sharing bills and a bed and routines and future talk, I had not expected to still be treated like an outsider. I set the bottle down carefully. "Family," I repeated. "So, after 2 years, I'm still not invited to a birthday dinner?" He shifted then, uncomfortable now, though not nearly enough. "It's not exactly that," he said. "Then what is it exactly?" He locked his phone and exhaled like I was dragging him into a conversation he didn't want. "My family still," he hesitated. "They still compare you to Ava." Ava, his ex-girlfriend. They had been together for 3 years before me. She had a finance job, expensive taste, and the kind of polished confidence Ethan's family admired because they mistook it for class. Early in our relationship, her name came up constantly. Ava did this. Ava always brought the right wine. Ava was better at that. At first, I ignored it. I thought time would take care of the ghost of her. I thought once Ethan and I had enough shared holidays, enough dinners, enough history, I would stop being measured against someone who was already gone. Apparently not. I looked at him. "They compare me to her?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "They just think—" He stopped, then said it anyway. "They think you're kind of lesser than she was." For a second, the room seemed to go silent. "Lesser than your ex," I said. He winced, but only lightly. "Claire, don't make it dramatic." "Dramatic?" I asked. "I'm just telling you what they think." "And you?" I asked. That was the only question that mattered. Not what his mother thought, not what Hillary thought, not what the rest of the family whispered over drinks. Him, Ethan, looked at me, but there was no outrage on my behalf. No instinct to defend me. No anger at the disrespect. Only annoyance. "I just don't want to deal with the comments all night," he said. "Or the questions. It'll be awkward. It's easier if you don't come." That was the moment everything clicked into place. Not Ava's name, not even the word lesser. It was easier if I stayed home. Easier for him. Easier to hide me than defend me. Easier to let me keep paying for half a life I apparently wasn't good enough to stand inside. I stared at him, and something in me went completely still. He must have mistaken my silence for surrender, because he unlocked his phone again, as if the conversation were finished. I stood up and walked to the bedroom. "Don't be mad," he called after me. "It's just one party." It was never just one party. It was every time his family brought up Ava and he let it slide. Every time he took my money without shame. Every time I noticed his screen tilt away from me when a message came in. Every time I felt distance and told myself I was imagining it because I didn't want to admit what it meant. In the bedroom, I pulled my gym bag from the closet and set it on the bed. Then I started packing. Not everything, just enough. A few changes of clothes, toiletries, my laptop charger, my external hard drive, the folder with my passport, birth certificate, and other paperwork from the desk drawer. The things you take when some private part of you has already made the decision. My hands were steady. No tears, no shaking, just clarity. About 20 minutes later, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He had changed into sweatpants and was watching me with open confusion, like this had gone completely off script. "What are you doing?" I folded another shirt. "Packing." "For what?" I zipped one side of the bag and looked up. "Leaving." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You're seriously going to throw a fit over not going to one party?" I straightened and faced him. "I'm not throwing a fit." "Then what is this?" "This is me understanding exactly where I stand." He frowned. "You're being ridiculous." "No," I said. "You told me your family thinks I'm beneath your ex, and instead of shutting it down, you agreed with them. You don't want me there because you're embarrassed." "I never said I was embarrassed." "You didn't have to." His jaw tightened. I could see the denial form and die before it reached his mouth. I lifted the bag off the bed. "Claire, come on." I pushed past him into the hallway. "Where are you even going?" he asked, sharper now that he realized I meant it. I picked up my keys from the table. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters." I turned back once. "For 2 years, I thought I was building a life with someone who respected me," I said. "Tonight, I found out I'm just the woman you settled for after the one your family actually wanted." His face paled. "That's not fair. Neither is spending 2 years with someone who sees you as less." I walked out before he could answer. He didn't follow me. By the time I reached my car, my phone buzzed twice. "You're overreacting. We'll talk when you calm down." I stared at the screen, set the phone face down on the passenger seat, and started the engine. I drove to Ray Martinez's place across town with the windows down and the radio off. When he opened the door in sweatpants with a beer in one hand and confusion all over his face, I said the only thing I had enough energy left to say. "I need a place to crash for a few days." He stepped aside immediately. Inside, I dropped my bag near his couch and finally let myself breathe. Tomorrow, while Ethan was at that party pretending everything was normal, I would go back for the rest of my things. Tonight, I just needed to be somewhere that didn't make me feel small. My phone buzzed again on Ray's coffee table. "Can you at least tell me when you're coming back?" I looked at the message, then turned the screen black. I already knew the answer. Saturday morning arrived with a strange kind of calm. Not peace, not forgiveness, just the calm that comes after a decision has already been made. I woke up on Ray's couch a little after 8. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the unfamiliar ceiling, the hum of his refrigerator, and the ache in my neck reminded me. Ray was already up. I found him in the kitchen pouring coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. He glanced up. "Morning." "Morning." He slid one mug toward me. We stood there quietly for a minute. Then he leaned against the counter. "So, what happened?" I told him everything. The party. The comparison. The word lesser. Ray listened without interrupting. When I finished, he let out a low whistle. "Damn." "Yeah." He took a sip of coffee and thought for a second. "So when are we getting your stuff?" I blinked. "You're not even going to suggest I talk it out?" "Talk what out?" he said. "He told you exactly how he sees you." "Fair point." "Today," I said, "while he's at the party." Ray nodded. "I'll grab my truck." The simplicity of that response felt oddly comforting. No debate, no speeches, just logistics. By noon, we were parked across from the apartment complex. Ethan's car was still there. Through the second-floor window, I could see movement inside. He was getting ready. Ethan had always taken extra time getting ready for family events. He cared more when their opinion was involved. I sat in the passenger seat and watched the window. Ray glanced over. "You good?" "Yeah." "You sure?" I nodded. Inside the apartment, Ethan moved from room to room. At one point, he disappeared into the bedroom. A few minutes later, he came back wearing a dark blue shirt I didn't recognize. Crisp, tailored, sharper than what he usually wore casually. He stood near the mirror for a moment, adjusting the collar. Then he checked his phone. A message came in. He smiled faintly at the screen. That small smile hit me harder than I expected. Not because I missed him, because suddenly too many little things started lining up. "Party starts at 2, right?" Ray asked. "Yeah." At 1:45, Ethan finally came out of the building. Hair fixed, shoes polished, dressed better than he needed to be for a simple family birthday dinner. He walked straight to his car without looking around, got in, and drove away. I waited until his car disappeared completely from view. Then I gave it another few minutes. Only after I was certain he was gone did I open the truck door. "All right," I said. "Let's do this." The apartment door unlocked with the same quiet click it always had. But the place felt different now. I stepped inside and looked around. I had lived there for more than a year, but standing in the living room that afternoon, I realized how little of it had ever actually been mine. Most of the furniture belonged to Ethan, or his sister. The couch. The dining table. The bookshelf filled with things I had never touched. I went into the bedroom and grabbed the garbage bags I had left the night before. Ray followed with 2 empty boxes. "What's yours?" he asked. I pointed. Clothes, electronics, the desk chair, the coffee maker my parents gave me. He nodded. We started packing. The process was almost mechanical. Shirts folded, shoes dropped into bags, laptop wrapped carefully in a towel, external hard drive into my backpack. 2 years of life reduced to practical objects. At one point, I opened the bathroom cabinet. My things took up maybe 1 shelf. A toothbrush, skincare, a hairbrush. I swept it all into a small bag and left the rest untouched. The kitchen took even less time. 1 good knife, 2 mixing bowls, the coffee maker. Everything else stayed. Ray carried the first load down to the truck while I did one final sweep of the bedroom. That was when I saw the shoebox. It was shoved beneath Ethan's side of the bed. I hesitated, then pulled it out. Inside were old photographs, ticket stubs, a bracelet, and half a dozen pictures of Ethan with Ava, laughing, arms around each other, smiling like everything still made sense. I stared at them for a moment. Then I put the lid back on and slid the box exactly where I had found it. I didn't need any more proof than I already had. 40 minutes later, everything I owned was in the back of Ray's truck. 2 garbage bags, 2 boxes, a backpack. That was it. I did one last walk through the apartment. The rooms echoed slightly now. No chargers in the walls, no clothes in the closet, no shoes by the door. The apartment key sat in my pocket. I took it out, walked into the kitchen, and stood there for a second. I thought about leaving a note. Some explanation, some final sentence. Then I realized Ethan already knew exactly why. I placed the key in the center of the counter, where he would see it the moment he walked in. No message. No goodbye. I walked out and closed the door behind me. Ray was leaning against the truck when I came down. "That it?" I looked up at the apartment one last time. "Yeah," I said quietly. "That's it." We drove back across town. My phone stayed silent the entire ride. Ethan was probably still at the party, laughing with relatives, standing beside his sister while she opened gifts, pretending everything in his life was normal. Whatever he was doing, it had nothing to do with me anymore. At Ray's place, we carried everything into the spare room. The room was small, a twin bed, a dresser missing 1 handle, but it had a window, and it was quiet. "How long you planning to stay?" Ray asked. "Just until I find a place." He shrugged. "Take your time." I sat down on the edge of the bed and checked my phone. Still nothing. Ethan probably wouldn't discover the empty apartment until later that evening. Ray appeared in the doorway with 2 beers. "Want to grab food later?" he asked. "Get your mind off it?" "Yeah," I said. "That sounds good." We went to a sports bar down the street, watched half a baseball game, talked about work, about nothing important. For the first time in months, I felt something close to relaxed. No tension, no wondering if I was saying the wrong thing, no careful orbit around someone else's moods. Just quiet. Around 8:30, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and stared at the screen. 12 missed calls, all from Ethan. Then the messages started coming through. "Where are all your things? Did you seriously move out while I was gone? Claire, answer me. This is insane. We need to talk right now." I locked the screen and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Ray glanced over, but didn't ask. At 9 o'clock, the phone buzzed again. Different name this time. Hillary Walker. I sighed and answered. "Hello?" Her voice came through, sharp and furious. "What the hell did you do? What the hell did you do?" Hillary Walker didn't bother with hello. Her voice came through the phone, sharp and clipped, like she had been waiting to unload on someone. I stepped outside the sports bar so the music wouldn't drown out the conversation. "I moved out," I said calmly. "You can't just move out." "I already did." There was a brief pause on the other end. "The lease is in my name," Hillary snapped. "You can't just walk away from that apartment." I leaned against the brick wall outside the bar and watched traffic move through the evening dark. "I never signed that lease," I said. "I was paying rent because I was dating your brother." "And now?" "Now I'm not." Another silence. Then Hillary exhaled sharply. "That's between you and him, but rent is due in 5 days. He can't cover that by himself." I almost laughed. For 2 years, I had quietly covered what Ethan couldn't. Now that I was gone, suddenly everyone wanted to call it a crisis. "That sounds like something the 2 of you need to figure out," I said. "You're being unbelievably selfish right now." "No," I replied. "I'm done." I hung up before she could say anything else. Inside the bar, Ray raised an eyebrow when I came back. "Sister?" "Yep." "How'd that go?" "She's upset I stopped paying rent." Shocking. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. "Ethan, you're being ridiculous." "Over one comment?" I stared at the message. Then I typed one reply. "You meant it exactly the way you said it. Enjoy the party." I hit send. Then I blocked his number. Ray lifted his bottle toward mine. "To new beginnings," he said. I clinked my bottle against his. To new beginnings. Sunday morning arrived quietly. Not with relief, not with closure. Just the strange calm that comes after something in your life ends cleanly, without negotiation. I woke up on Ray's couch a little after 8. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the unfamiliar ceiling and the faint hum of the refrigerator reminded me. Ray was already awake. I found him in the kitchen making coffee. He glanced over his shoulder. Morning. Morning. He handed me a mug without asking how I took it. We had been friends long enough that he already knew. We stood there for a moment before he asked the obvious question. So what now? I leaned against the counter and thought about it. Now I find a place of my own. He nodded once. Good plan. That afternoon, I started looking at apartment listings. Small places, older buildings, nothing impressive, just spaces that were mine. For the first time in a long while, the idea of living alone didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. By Monday morning, my phone had started lighting up again. Not Ethan. I had already blocked him. But numbers connected to him. Friends trying to mediate. People asking what had happened. People suggesting we should talk things out. I ignored all of them. Work helped. Busy schedules left less room for thinking. But around 2:30 that afternoon, a coworker named Corey appeared beside my desk. Hey, he said quietly. There's someone here asking for you. My stomach tightened. Says it's urgent. I already knew. When I reached the lobby, Ethan was standing near the door. Arms crossed, expression tight. We need to talk, he said immediately. I glanced at the clock behind the reception desk. I'm working. I don't care. Several coworkers were watching now. I lowered my voice. I'm not doing this here. He gestured toward the parking lot. Fine, outside. I followed him through the glass doors. The moment they closed behind us, his frustration came out. This is insane, he said. You moved out over one comment. You told me your family thinks I'm inferior to your ex. I never said I agreed with them. You didn't defend me either. He ran a hand through his hair. You're twisting everything. Am I? I just didn't want to deal with the questions. And hiding me was easier. That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. He exhaled sharply. What about the apartment? He demanded. Hillary says you're not paying anymore. I'm not. He stared at me. You can't just do that. The rent is due Friday. You should probably start figuring out how you're going to cover it. His expression went blank. What? Find a roommate, I said calmly. Move back home. Figure it out. His jaw tightened. Why do you keep bringing up Ava like she has anything to do with this? Because she does. He opened his mouth to argue, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed. He glanced down automatically. Something in his expression softened. He typed a quick reply. I watched the entire thing. Who was that? I asked. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. None of your business. That was answer enough. We're done here, I said. You're really walking away from this? Yes. You'll regret it. I don't think so. I turned and walked back inside. 2 days later, Ethan showed up again. This time outside Ray's building. He was sitting on the concrete steps when I came home Thursday evening. He stood up the moment he saw me. How did you know I was staying here? I asked. I called Dallas. Of course he had. I just want to talk, he said. I sighed. 5 minutes. We walked to a bench near the parking lot. For a moment, he stared at his hands before speaking. I talked to Ava. I almost laughed. Of course you did. She's engaged again. To Connor? He nodded. They're getting married. That explained more than he probably realized. I thought if she saw me move on, he continued, she might realize she made a mistake. And come back. He didn't answer. So I was a rebound, I said. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? He hesitated. At the beginning, maybe I hoped she'd notice. And I was the proof you'd moved on. Silence. You used me. That's not how it started. Then explain it. He rubbed his face. At first, yeah, maybe I hoped she'd get jealous. There it was. The truth. I did start caring about you, he added quickly. Did you? Yes. Before or after you realized I was paying most of the rent. His mouth opened, then closed again. I nodded. That was answer enough. You didn't lose me because relationships are messy, I said quietly. You lost me because you never actually chose me. His frustration flared again. You're refusing to even try to fix this. Fix what? Everything. You mean the part where you admitted you used me? That's not fair. No, I said. It's accurate. He stared at the ground. Finally, he said it out loud. Yes, at the beginning I used you. The words landed heavily. Yes, I thought Ava might notice. Yes, I hoped she'd regret leaving. The parking lot went silent. But I did start caring about you, he insisted. Past tense, I said. He didn't respond. We're done, I told him. You're really walking away? Yes. You'll regret it. I doubt that. I stood up. Good luck with the rent. He didn't follow me when I walked away. By the next week, things had settled. I found an apartment. Small, older building, 15 minutes from work. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. When I signed the lease, something inside my chest relaxed. No shared finances, no quiet tension, no constant comparison with someone who wasn't even there. Just space. Ray helped me move in that weekend. 2 trips with his truck. Pizza on the floor because I didn't own a table yet. Cheap beer while we sat against the wall surrounded by boxes. "How's it feel?" he asked. I looked around the apartment. "Good," I said. "Really good." And it was. My phone stayed silent. Ethan. Hillary. His friends. One by one, I blocked them all. Peace came quickly after that. 3 weeks later, I ran into Hillary at the grocery store. She spotted me near the produce section. "Well," she said. "Claire." "Hillary." She crossed her arms. "You really messed him up." "Did I?" "He had to move back home." "That sounds like his problem." She shook her head. "You abandoned him." "No," I said calmly. "I walked away." "That's not how he tells it." "I'm sure it isn't." She hesitated. "Ava and Connor got married last week." I paused. "And?" He didn't take it well. I nodded once. "Still not my problem." She pushed her card away without another word. Later that same day, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it. But something made me answer. "Hello? Claire?" Ethan's voice. "Don't hang up." "What do you want?" I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I leaned against my car in the parking lot. "For what?" "For everything." He exhaled slowly. "You were right." "About what?" "I used you at the beginning. I wasn't over Ava. I took you for granted." The honesty sounded different now, less defensive. "I messed up," he said. I thought about that for a moment. "Okay. That's it?" he asked. "That's it." "You're not going to say anything else?" "What do you want me to say?" "That you forgive me. That we could try again." I shook my head. "No, I'm not asking for that," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know I understand now." "Good," I said. "I hope that helps you do better next time." Silence. Then he asked quietly, "Are you happy?" I looked up at the sky for a moment. Then I thought about my apartment. The quiet. The absence of tension. The absence of someone who made me feel like I was competing with a memory. "Yeah," I said. "I am." He exhaled softly. "You deserve that." "So do you," I replied. Eventually. Another pause. "Goodbye, Claire." "Goodbye, Ethan." The call ended. I drove home. The apartment greeted me the way it had every evening since I moved in. Quiet. Simple. Peaceful. No more calls. No more comparisons. No more wondering if I was enough. Just my life. And the freedom of never again being someone's second choice.